Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where we bring you the vibrant sounds and stories of Wisconsin-based musicians. I'm your host, Zach Fell, and today's guest is CP Chris Peppas, a versatile vocalist and conga player who performs around the greater Milwaukee area. Chris is known for his performances with various trios that focus on jazz standards, classic rock, and blues. In addition to his live performances, Chris collaborates on songwriting and recording projects. Chris has co-written a new song with Joe Jarreau, a Milwaukee native and multi-instrumentalist who has an illustrious career working with artists such as Ricky Lee Jones, Michael Bolton, Tina Turner, and Aretha Franklin. Joe is also the music director for Grammy-winning jazz legend Jarreau until his passing in 2017. Joe composed the music, bridge lyrics, and played all the parts on the recording, while Chris contributed the main lyrics and recorded the vocals with sound engineer and mastering engineer Gary Tannen, who is also a past guest here on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. For those of you who are new to our show, we are dedicated to showcasing the incredible talent of Wisconsin's music community. Our episodes drop every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Additionally, you can catch our episodes on Fox Cities Indie Radio every Thursday at 6 p.m. and Sundays at 3 p.m. You can also follow Chris Peppas on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and stay up to date on his musical journey. But without further ado, let's get right into our conversation with Chris. CP, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate
to talk to the folks and be on the podcast.
I appreciate you being here. So let's kind of give the listeners your music origin story. How did you kind of start in music and kind of how it's grown throughout your life?
Well, I turned 70 in 2023, and so I was kind of a late bloomer to music. I didn't get started until I was 58 years old. So,
okay.
As opposed to the kids that, got the drum kit or the guitar at age 5 and kind of grew into it and played all their lives. I mean, I was, sang on the choir a little bit. I performed as a DJ playing music, records and stuff like that in the 80s, probably about 20 years or so, and was mostly doing sports writing and public relations promotion work, stuff like that. And I had gotten through bypass surgery. I lost a couple 300 pounds there from my high weight, and started doing things that I always wanted to do, but couldn't for whatever reason. One of them was teaching English as a second language, helping Hispanics get their GEDs and get their citizenship papers going. And another one was playing the conga drum. I started taking conga lessons, and I was just playing conga. And I started going to these open mics in 2011 and met up with a guy that said, well, why don't you come and play your drum? I've got this little jazz group called Generation Gap. You can play your drum in a couple songs. And we're performing on a one-off kind of a Taco Tuesday thing way back in the day for a buck a taco kind of a thing. And so I went there, and then I went to an open mic later that year in July, just with my drum. And they said, well, if you sing at all, you can, get up there and sing a song. And it was a jazz thing, so I knew Don't Get Around Much Anymore, Duke Ellington tune. So I sang that, and I was about to leave the stage, and they said, well, it's a 2-song minimum. And I didn't really know much about anything else. So I thought I'd probably stumble my way through All of Me. So I did that, and the keyboard player asked me what key I sing in, and I said, I really don't know a key from a lock at that point.
Yeah.
And so I started going back every week, and it was pretty well received. And I saw a picture of myself performing at another open mic, and just saw a passion in my in the picture that I didn't realize that I had for singing music. So I sort of was working freelance writing and things like that, which I still continue to do. Mostly sports back then, but now I write a lot about musicians and review CDs and do liner notes and things like that. But that sort of morphed into that year of singing songs and playing with the Generation Gap full time. And then I was booking the band and working as the front man. And instead of like doing 8 or 10 songs, or 2 or 3 songs, I did 8 or 10. And then I was doing the whole set and whole show. And that just sort of built into what's been a very rewarding second chapter in my life.
Wonderful.
Which has been the music. And the guys in the Generation Gap were in their 80s back then, and a couple of them have passed away in the meantime, and others have had, strokes and heart attacks and different things going on. And so I started doing duo shows started with Jeff Stoll, who's been at the Packing House for 44 years this April. He'll be there with a standing gig, which is a record for the city of Milwaukee. And doing jazz and standards and things like that with him. And we become, CP and Stoll, and at that point, and also hooked up with an acoustic guitar guy with a kind of a gritty, soulful voice, and I kind of bring the smooth crooner thing to it. And so we go out as classic rock and blues and just some 90s stuff. We go as CPR. I'm CP and Ricky is the R part of that. And so we alternate singing, and the combination of the two different vocal styles really seems to work as well. About 4 years ago, man came to one of our jazz jams, and we just hit it off immediately. And his name was Joe Toronto. And we performed actually our first gig like a week after that. Okay. And he has since joined Jeff and I. And that was in 2019. Well, after the fact, I found out he was Al Jarreau's musical director for a dozen years.
Oh, wow.
He was on tour with Michael Bolton. He's doing background vocals on Simply the Best, the Tina Turner Grammy award-winning song, best song of the year. Aretha Franklin, the list goes on and on. He, was in the band that was on Name That Tune back in the day on television, and just this incredible resume, but a very humble and self-effacing guy. I had written a lyric. I love the song Angel Eyes by Frank Sinatra. And it's kind of a haunting melody, and it's about love that's there, but it's not there anymore. She's got somebody else, and he was trying to figure out, why she's not with him anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of wrote a lyric, kind of a companion piece to that. But I don't read music, I don't write music. And I'd given it to a few other people. This was 2015 that I wrote the song. And I've given it to a couple people, and nobody really ever did anything with it. Well, this past January, I gave the lyric to Joe Toronto. And within 2 weeks, he had put down a track, playing all the instruments, the keys, bass, drums, sax. And the sax in this song is just incredible. It was actually the last instrument that he picked up. He plays several instruments, and obviously is a writer, arranger, composer, musical director, kind of jack of all trades. And so that came up with the song that is It's Neither Here Nor There. And that's what we've been doing live. It's neither here nor there. So go ahead, see if I care. You look at me with that icy stare, a look that I can hardly bear. But that's the way love often goes. It could be painful, I suppose, but it's no skin off my nose. Does it matter? Heaven knows.
starting off like all the rest. Happy till love's put to the test. Romance is power once expressed, pulls heartstrings taut, leaves feeling stressed. But that's the way love often goes. It should be painful, I suppose, but it's no skin off my nose. Does it matter? Heaven only knows. These memories are not all bad. We didn't make it, and that leaves me sad. I wish you hadn't, I wish I had, but what's done is done, and what's past is past. But that's the way love often goes. It is painful, I suppose, but that's no skin off my nose. Does it matter? Heaven knows.
At our shows, he's since joined the trio, and we are as trio. We go out as Central Standard Time. But he also plays in the Paul Spencer group at Caroline's on the weekends and all around town. Wherever I can get a chance to play with him, of course I would, because it's just a phenomenal experience. And to see those words and my vision of an angelized like song jump off that page, that 8.5 by 11 white sheet of paper, with what he did with it, it's just so incredible. And the feeling is like nothing I've ever experienced, you know, besides like being on stage. So it's really been rewarding, and there's really nothing like it. I mean, I don't think there's a drug that they've come up with that can match that kind of feeling, whether you're on stage connecting with the audience or connecting with them emotionally through a song.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I remember when I was a teenager and I grew up in a musical family, and we played at one of these outdoor get-togethers, and just the feeling of just going up on stage. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it's really magical, and a lot of times, you know, people say, well, you know, what's it like? And aren't people rude, or if they're talking in the background? I mean, the measure for me is of a successful gig is when the people are engaged and they're putting down their fork, or they're, you know, stopping the conversation, and they'll look up and they'll they'll grab onto if I'm doing something like Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers, or any number of other songs that kind of grab them, and they're compelled to listen and to be a part of it. And I remember a couple times just finishing and having the crowd burst into applause, and they just were so moved. And I had a woman last year say, recovering from cancer, and having this experience of listening to you tonight was really helped me feel good about myself, and that I've come through something, and it made me feel alive. And you get comments like that are fairly commonplace, and it's almost an eerie feeling, like, boy, you really have a connection with this person, and on this level that's deeper than you get a lot of these days, anywhere else, where we seem to be connected but yet so disconnected at the same time.
Right, exactly. It's a very special moment when you can connect with somebody, or they can connect with you with what you're doing. It's one of those amazing feelings.
And we have folks that are regular. We have some standing gigs that we built up over the years, and they're there like clockwork. I mean, we had this couple when the husband has passed away. He was 90. The remaining, his widow, still comes to see our shows. Not all of them anymore, but she's 92, 93 now. And we were headed toward a gig in Whitefish Bay at the Bay, and it was a lake effect snowstorm. And so they're in Whitefish Bay, very close to the lake.
Yep.
And there was like 5.5 inches of snow. And they live in Wauwatosa, which is nearby, but not really that close.
Right.
And I remember I was driving to the gig. The owner decided not to cancel, to play the show. And so I'm loading in my stuff, and I'm thinking, like, well, I'll forgive them. They're probably not going to be there tonight. I'm dragging my cart of gear into the front door, and there they are sitting at the first two slots at the bar. And they made it where, people half or even a third of their age, said, "Oh, we're not going out in this mess."
Right.
But they were there. And, that's the kind of stuff that you really keep going and keep doing it for, really, because you've made that connection.
Right, exactly. Doing all these gigs, what do you think you've taken away from this that you could pass on to the next generation?
Well, I think it's important. A lot of the people that I watched and went to shows when I wasn't even, it wasn't on my radar at all to be a performer or to sing or play music at all. And I'm thinking of a guy like Warren Wheatgrass in the Sweet Bottom in the 70s, when the jazz fusion, had its heyday. They were just out there getting it done, day in and day out. And there were lots of places to play. There wasn't cable TV. There wasn't streaming. There wasn't any number of things. Obviously the cell phones and things like that are distractions. There's more tugs on the entertainment dollar now. So if you want to perform, you're going to have to, work with a venue owner and really promote yourself and really get in there and make it sort of a, symbiotic relationship. I think it's key to do that. I have a PR background, so it was second nature to me to get the posters and the either a catchy name for the group and get out there and use all the outlets that are possible. Social media, obviously, all the e-zines and the other places where you can promote your shows, and get the owners involved and have them want to have you, and let them get their waitresses and waiters and bartenders to talk you up. Mm-hmm. And so they're bringing in some of their crowd, and you're going to bring people that maybe wouldn't have been at their place before, if not to see you. And so that's the goal. And I've done more because I don't have a pedigree or a history like a lot of some of the performers that have been doing it for decades. They're at Summerfest every year. I just played my first state fair this past summer. and it was quite a heady experience. I was on the Roberts stage with Ricky Orta Jr. and Mike Buchholz, the CPR show, and it's a 4-hour thing, and you just really felt like you had made it a little bit, being at one of those venues. But so the goal is to, like, this is what we can do. Give us a shot, and we'll bring some people in, and then you'll have us back, and we'll bring some more people in, and you'll have us back again, and then, for example, we'll be doing it, once a month or whatever. So the goal is to kind of build a few standing gigs, and then fill in with the rest of them along your way. I mean, at least that's the path that I've taken, and I've been just beyond blessed to have been paired with the guys like the likes of Jeff Stoll and Joe Toronto and Ricky Orta Jr. And then, we're talking about giants. I joke that I stand on the shoulders of giants, and they look up and say, "Would you please get down?" But we can't take it anymore. But no, I mean, I sometimes have to pinch myself. Back in the Generation Gap days, Dick Elliott was a guitar player. He played with Sinatra, Elvis, Sammy Davis Jr., Barbra Streisand. Was in Las Vegas for for like 50 years, resident until just last year when he sold his condo there. He's 87 years old, and he's still gigging in Milwaukee area. He moved back full time here, and I was singing "Fly Me to the Moon" at O'Donoghue's one night with Generation Gap, and Dick's playing behind me, and I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. I mean, he was doing this for Sinatra in Vegas, the same song at one point, and it's like, you just almost forget that you have to go back in and sing the rest of the song when those thoughts come over you.
Right. So, no, but that's
that I would say keep at it. It's it's not something that you do; it's something that you are. You're a musician. You're compelled. You have to do it. The dirty little secret is we do it for free, but we'd rather get paid, and make that as a mark of respect. It kind of is a measuring stick, if you will, for success in the business. But keep at it. Don't get disheartened. I mean, for every place that says, "Hey, no, we're not going to, we don't need anything," or whatever, keep at it, and eventually you'll get a yes, and the yeses will start to multiply.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be somebody there, if you retain your vision. I think any artist, be it painting or sculpting, writing, which I did a lot more, or still do a lot of as well, just prose and poetry and different things that have been published as an author that way as well. But just keep at it, I would say, would be the biggest thing that I would say.
Excellent. Great advice. Then, with all this experience, and now that, not only the experience of being on stage, but the experience of, like you were talking about earlier, being in the PR and things of that nature, it just kind of comes full circle for you, because it all kind of melds together now, and you can take the information from what you've learned from those other parts of your life, and you put it into this new chapter, as you said. It just seems like it's just a stronger, what's the word I'm looking for? I think maybe it helps you get to another spot or another level.
Well, I think, a lot of people, remarked, to say, well, you realize that you've had sort of a meteoric rise here. I mean, in the early days when I was getting gigs, people would come to me and say, that had been in the business for many years, well, how did you get this? How did you get that? I said, well, I found out they were having live music there of the genre that I play. And I just asked them, I said, this is what we do. You want to give us a shot? A lot of it was just cold calling and not giving up. And, places have closed, places have burned down, whatnot. And you just keep plugging away. The next one goes on its way. And I would say to anybody that's really starting out, I got much better as a vocalist. My range, the number of songs that I could do, the types, the genres. I wasn't afraid to switch off of jazz and and get into blues and get into classic rock, because I grew up with that stuff, the Beatles and Stones and in that era, the music I grew up with. So
Right.
it was an easy transition to add those songs. But I would go to open jams, go ask where there's an open mic. If you have the wherewithal, you go to a place and say, hey, if you got a slow Tuesday or whatever, let me have it, and I'll bring some buddies down. We'll put some stuff together, and I know several groups playing in the Milwaukee area now that got together at an open jam just 3 years ago, and they're gigging on a regular basis and doing quite well.
Yeah.
So, it can happen, but you just cannot give up, and you can't stop believing in yourself.
Right.
Because that's just never going to be a recipe for any success.
Because you usually hear more.
Always keep
Right.
at it.
Because you usually hear more no's than you hear yeses. But once you get a yes, then you just have to build on that.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the PR. I think I calculated that. I think I spend 3 hours plus promoting for every hour that I'm on stage at a gig. So it's making the poster, it's getting out there and putting the event pages on Facebook together, or for putting the Shepherd Express online, or Urban Milwaukee, Milwaukee 360, and now with the song that we've written, and just getting it to different locations. For example, it's a jazz ballad that it's neither here nor there that we wrote, but yesterday was the first time I emailed the people at Catfish, because they have these little snippets of songs in between the as kind of bumpers between the episodes of Catfish. And I thought, well, what the heck? This is a kind of a melancholy love song, love lost song. So
Right.
why not give it a shot? So I haven't obviously heard back yet, because it was just last night. But I'm just little things like that come to me. It's like, oh yeah, let me see about this. Let me see about that. Contacting you was another thing where I said, hey, maybe you'd be interested in something like that. So you focus on Wisconsin music.
Right.
And I want to be a part of that. I got involved last year. We were fortunate enough to be nominated for Whammies, for the Wisconsin Area Music Industry Awards.
Yep.
And we just got our notification last week that we're eligible again this year. And I hope to submit our song in the Song of the Year category, and also they have a unique Song of the Year. And I'm not sure there are a lot of jazz ballads that were released this past year. There's more probably rock and roll and indie folk rock kind of stuff that's out there. So hopefully, if nothing else, we'll get more exposure and more people listen to it. It's quite well received when we do it live at our shows. And, I don't know if we'll get to the point where we'll close the show with it, but it's just been very gratifying to be able to bring that sort of emotional piece to an audience,
Right.
on a regular basis. There's really nothing like it.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about the song of itself. We've talked about, you writing it and how it got recorded, but more so in the email that I have, it says that you were working with Gary Tannen. And I've known him for 20 plus years, and so and I've had him on the show as well. So kind of tell us about that experience with working with Gary.
Well, the Gary Tannen connection came by with Dick Elliott. Last Christmas, Dick Elliott did a Christmas CD.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done the liner notes for Dick's CDs in 2015 and 16, I think. I Remember April was one of them. And so last time he did Oh Holy Night.
Yep.
An album of Christmas songs. Well,
Mm-hmm.
he does recording in his own studio, and then he goes to Gary's studio up in the second floor of his house.
Yep.
And he mixed it together. So Dick had me come and play the sleigh bells and some other percussion on a couple of the songs, the Christmas songs. And so Joe Toronto was probably going to do the mixing of the song at his studio in his house. but he had some issues with his vision, and he wasn't able to look at the screen and do the close looking at it. So
Gotcha.
I said, well, let me just see if Gary will send the track to Gary and see if we can record it up at his studio, and that's what we did. So Joe sent the track over to Gary. They had a back and forth, and then I went there and recorded up in his studio on the south side.
And did you, what kind of things did you learn from just working in that environment with Gary?
Well, the technology obviously is the big thing. I mean, we're literally, slicing and getting the very perfect phrase for that part of the song. And if you do 4 or 5 different versions of it, you're putting together like a pastiche, like a patchwork quilt of the songs that you recorded. And so you're getting the best of everything. That's a new experience for me because really I hadn't been in the studio before last year when I was doing the stuff with percussion and Dick and on his album. So I can do live performances that is like second nature. I think it's maybe liken it to a karaoke performer who would have trouble then going to work with a live band, because it's just a different thing. Mm-hmm. You don't know when to come in and when to lay back and different things like that. So it was a new experience for sure. And I work with Suzanne Grisana, who's Grammy nominated artist in town, sax player and great vocalist as well.
Yep.
She released a 25th anniversary CD of her first one, which was called The Cat's Meow. And so I did a review of that CD, and she's just collaborating all over the country, down south with different people. She's out in LA, New York, and people are talking and going back and forth and putting music together around the world without being in the same, time zone, much less zip code, area code, or room, same room. So, I mean, it's really phenomenal how the technology has changed, and also the entree into getting the song made and getting it, heard and, out there is so much easier for the artist. The flip side of that, of course, the remuneration is not there. When you hear about Weird Al Yankovic getting, 1 billion plays and getting a check for, I don't know, $26,000 or whatever.
Right.
It was silly.
Right.
Really, when you think about it. But that's what we have to deal with, as artists. And, the touring is everything now, and the merchandise, the merch, that's where it's all at for the artists now, because they're not going to make any real money on the music anymore. They're going to make it on the ancillary stuff that goes on. So
exactly,
a lot of challenges, but it is show business, and the show part is easy. The business part is not always easy, and it's difficult for people to get a hold of that. And so I'm not sure if didn't even be able to have handled it back then if I was in my 20s doing it. You never really know. I just feel that whatever it was my time to get something going, and I realized there was something there that was kind of fertile, and I was able to encourage it and grow within me, and that was the passion that I saw in that picture.
Yeah.
Way back when, and that's what helped me pursue it. And now I can't see myself doing anything else, and don't even think about a retirement age, because I guess you got Dick Elliott at 87.
Right.
I was jamming with a drummer and a singer who passed away at 94. And he was singing to the very end. I mean, literally was at the nursing home playing with Jeff Stoll the Tuesday, I think, before he died, like a couple days later.
Jeez.
So so there's.
Yeah, you don't know when your time is up, so just keep going until you can't, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd like the listeners to know before I let you go?
I think we've touched on just about everything. I mean, I guess don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, whatever it is. I mean, if it's something they think, gee, I really like to play music, well, then, try it, give it a try. Because
Right.
all they'll be able to say is no, and they might say yes. And
Exactly.
so I always have that as my mantra. And it was way before music, too. I mean, with writing, submitting a story for publication or whatever it is, I mean, all they can say is no.
Right.
And they might
Exactly.
say yes.
Yep. And that's always a good feeling when
Yeah.
you're trying so much and you get all these no's, and all of a sudden someone really sees what you're trying to do and they give you an opportunity, and then you just have to push through after that.
Yeah, it only takes one yes, right? And then
Exactly.
then you're off and running.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure with your podcast it was the same thing. You just like, hey, I have an idea for this. Let's give it a shot. And you didn't shrink away from it. You said, let's see what happens and take it where it can go, and look at it now.
Right. It's just little by little, it just keeps, I meet great people like you and hear interesting stories, and then I get to, throw it out there, and hopefully people are out there listening and enjoy what they're listening to and get something out of it. That's all I really hope for.
Yeah, YouTube Chris CP Peppas. Go on Google, and the song will pop up with a picture of me sitting up in the Gary Tannen's loft.
Okay.
And you'll hear the haunting sax intro and solo of Joe Toronto, the musical author of the piece. And I'm a part of it, and I'm still blown away when I listen to that. That's just unbelievable. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being on. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed, talking with you and hearing everything about you, and hopefully we'll see more songs from you in the future.
Yeah, I've got a couple in the hopper. One that's sort of more whimsical than this sort of a darker piece. Jeff stole jokes about it. Grab the razor blades kind of a song. It's like, we're trying to talk people off the ledge. It's
right.
It's okay. It's going to be okay. But I've got a few other things in it, and because I've done a lot of poetry and prose and different things like that, the writing of it, the lyrics, has really not been a problem. It's just then working with something and kind of getting a melody to go with it, and that's
right.
Where I've been blessed with other people in my life that can pick up the pieces and take the ball and bring it in the end zone.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that's a great place to stop. CP, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Like I said, it's been a great conversation. I loved hearing about, all the things you've been going, you're doing with music. And even though it's a late start, it looks like you're doing you're having an excellent time doing it.
Well, I really appreciate the thought, and just thank you so much. And I appreciate what you're doing, because you're going to help foster that next generation. Like I said, we're passing the baton to the next generation. And when I work with Jazz Unlimited, we give scholarships every year, $11,000+ and just wrote about Josh Catania, who's an arranger, keyboard player, pianist, and just got married this past weekend. And he's working out in Connecticut and going to New York, and he's gigging and everything else. And he got his start with winning some scholarships in Milwaukee for Jazz Unlimited. So it's really great to see that level of talent. He was 15 years old, and just he was doing arrangements for the Super Band, which is a local big band around town. Just incredible.
Awesome. Very awesome. Well, I'll put all your links and a link to Jazz Unlimited as well in the show notes. And everybody else, thanks for listening. And CP, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Thursdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. Thank you to CP for joining us on the Wisconsin Music Podcast today. It was a pleasure learning about his journey as a vocalist and a conga player, and so excited about his new song, which was co-written with Joe Turano. His contributions to the Milwaukee music scene is truly inspiring. For those of you who are new to our show, the Wisconsin Music Podcast is dedicated to showcasing the incredible talent of Wisconsin-based musicians and the thriving local music community. Our episodes drop every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Additionally, you can catch our episodes on Fox Cities Indie Radio every Thursday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. Make sure to follow Chris on Facebook, X, and Instagram to keep up with his latest musical endeavors. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another fantastic episode on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. If you are enjoying these episodes, please consider donating to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Donations help pay for the website and putting the podcast up on streaming services, and also getting our name out there to all Wisconsinites and others that are interested in our great music here in Wisconsin. Donations are secured through PayPal and Stripe. All you have to do is go to the website and click on Donate to WMP. You can also head over to our Instagram and Facebook pages and like us there. Leave some comments. Also go to the podcast review section of your podcast player and leave a 5-star review. Would be great. You can also head over to YouTube and watch the interviews and leave comments there as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.